Lamar Jackson and Chuck Pagano are recruiting Myles Garrett to the Ravens. We'll also talk about the Cooper Kupp fit since he announced that the Rams are looking to trade him. The Ravens officially hired Todd Monken and Tyler Santucci, and a former Raven finds a new home. We're talking all of that and more in today's episode of the Flock Rundown.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. As we all know, Myles Garrett has demanded a trade. I made a video on that yesterday, but we're getting some recruitment from Lamar Jackson. He retweeted a Ravens Nation live post that had an AI image of Myles Garrett in a Ravens uniform, said purple fits you well, at Myles Garrett, do you like crab cakes? Lamar Jackson reposted this, and we're also getting some help from Chuck Pagano. It started with a Pat McAfee clip post of him talking about Myles Garrett's trade request, and then Evan Fox put Lions ? And then Chuck Pagano quote tweeted that with the Raven bird. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that anything's about to happen or even likely to happen, but it is cool that Lamar Jackson and Chuck Pagano are hitting the recruiting trail and saying, hey, Myles, come over here, especially Lamar Jackson. You know, Chuck Pagano is just cool because he just got here, and welcome back, Chuck, man. It's nice to have you back for sure. But Lamar Jackson has a voice, a big voice in the Ravens franchise. So the fact that he's publicly showing his appreciation for Myles Garrett and the fact that he would obviously welcome him with open arms to the Baltimore Ravens is cool to see. I know it's unlikely. I've had a million comments yesterday and everyone like, this is not happening. This is not happening. Ravens fans are getting their hopes up. I said in the video yesterday, I think there's like a 2% chance, but when a generational pass rusher is available at a position of need, we should talk about it. You know what I mean? And it's the offseason. There's not a lot of positive Ravens news. Obviously, we got an investigation going on with one of our all-time players. There's a Super Bowl going on this week that we are not a part of, that I feel like we should be a part of. So it sucks. You know, there's not a lot of positivity out there. I'm still feeling that loss from Buffalo. So let us talk about some trade ideas and free agent moves and all these potential options that the Ravens may have. And Myles Garrett is one that I think is different from anyone that's ever really been available. I mean, this is a generational pass rusher. It's something that needs to be talked about. Is it unlikely because Cleveland doesn't want to send him in the division? Yeah, probably. I know that. I'm aware of that. It doesn't make the fan base stupid because they want to talk about it or even dream about the possibility of having a player like that. I think that's all fun. It's part of the offseason, is part of being a fan of football. Another name that is now the talk of the trade market is Cooper Kupp. Now, the Rams have informed him that they are seeking a trade and they're going to move on. So he put out a letter basically saying that he's the healthiest he's ever been. He's ready for his best offseason. He's got multiple more years of elite football. And I agree. I don't know if he'll be like prime Cooper Kupp, but I think that he can provide a lot of value to a lot of teams for the next few years, no doubt. I mean, Cooper Kupp's game is not completely reliant on speed or anything like that. He's a shifty route runner. He's a smart route runner. He knows football. He plays with a fire. He's got great hands. I just think that all those things translate even as you age. So I think Cooper Kupp's definitely going to make an impact. Now, is he going to potentially be an option for the Baltimore Ravens? I think he's an option. I think they explore it because EDC usually calls on everything. That's just good, being a good GM. That's good business. Like, let's make some calls. Let's see what they're offering. Maybe we could get them for a steal, you know, and you got to come in and check on it. But I don't think that this is a very realistic trade, and this is not something that we should go all in for like the Myles Garrett trade. The receiver position, in my opinion, is in a better spot than edge. I think we should get an elite edge. We should do whatever it takes to get an elite edge. And maybe that's just Khalil Mack in free agency. You know, a lot of people are saying that we should trade for Khalil Mack. He's not on the Chargers. He's a free agent. So let's just go sign him. You know, a guy like that I could see making a lot of sense. And then the elite edges that are like dream trade scenarios is Myles Garrett, obviously at the top of that list. I would say like Micah Parsons, but who knows? He's probably not even available. And Max Crosby. Those three to me are dream, you know, fantasy land trade ideas for us to have an elite edge. And I would do almost anything to get those guys. But Cooper Kupp doesn't fall into an all-in category for me. And he's got a big cap hit. I know it's lower than it's listed as. His cap hits are listed at $29 million and $27 million, but Nick Knows Ball broke this down on X. He said it's $12.5 million in 2025, $19.85 million in 2026. Could be less depending on his roster bonus, but the Rams have already paid his signing bonus, which lowers that cap hit for the next team. Now, there's dead money that's going to come to the Rams. They're going to have to absorb some of that contract just to get rid of him. So I'm not sure exactly what the final numbers would be. They're going to have to negotiate all those details, but it's not as crazy as the cap hit is listed as, but it's still expensive. For the Ravens to even be interested in this, the Rams would have to eat a ton of Cooper Kupp's contract, and I feel like the Ravens would not give up much draft capital, like third, fourth round pick, like not a lot. I just don't think that this is the all-in type of move. Would I take Cooper Kupp? Yeah, if it's a steal, but I don't think this is one where we are the highest bidder. For Myles Garrett, I'm like, let's outbid whoever's on the table, seriously. And especially, I think you'd have to because he's in the division. If you even had a chance, you most likely don't have a chance, but if you did, you'd have to be the highest bidder. Cooper Kupp, I'm on the other end of it. It's like, if we can kind of get a steal and they want to send him to Baltimore and we get a really, really good deal, then obviously I'd welcome Cooper Kupp. I'll welcome talent. I think Cooper Kupp could have a nice role on the Ravens, and I think he's got a lot of great football years left. But that's not my ideal pick. I don't think we should be all in for this. I think we could draft another wide receiver to create more depth. I think we could go sign a cheaper wide receiver in free agency. I think that there's other options to fill and add to the depth of the Ravens receiving core. But we'll see. I think it's worth a call for Eric DeCosta. Hey, what's this going to look like? And if it makes a lot of sense for Baltimore, let's bring Cooper Kupp over. This is different than Myles Garrett to me. Myles Garrett, I will scream from the mountaintops, do whatever you got to do. As unlikely as it is, that's a game changer. Cooper Kupp would help for sure, but I don't think that's like the missing piece. I'm more worried about the offensive line, but we'll see how it plays out. Like I said, I would totally welcome Cooper Kupp. I just think this is not something that you get really, really aggressive for like you should on the Myles Garrett trade. In some other Ravens news, they have officially announced the contract extension of Todd Monken. There's no details out yet on how many years or what the value is or anything like that. So I'm more interested in the years, I guess. There's no really cap for coaches' pay. So I don't really care what he makes, I guess. But I want to know how long that extension is. But regardless, it's official. Todd Monken is back as the Ravens offensive coordinator. They also announced that Tyler Santucci is officially hired as the linebackers coach. I've already made videos on both of these signings, but the Ravens took some days to officially announce it. But you can go back and watch the coaching updates to get a lot of background on Tyler Santucci as our linebackers coach. Dropped that on Sunday. And then the Todd Monken extension was last week on another coaching update video. And we also got a former Raven, Sala, who we did not re-sign to the future reserve deals. He's been on the practice squad for the most part of his career, but he is officially signed with the Seahawks. So Mike McDonald knows Sala from his time here, and I'm guessing that probably gave them a little bit more insight. He gave the Seahawks a little bit more insight to go sign Sala. So he's officially a Seattle Seahawk now. We'll see if he ends up playing for them or just kind of being on their practice squad, but he's no longer in Baltimore. We'll finish off with a little Q&A from you guys. I don't have a ton of questions today. Keep dropping questions. You can ask literally anything about the offseason, about Ravens in the past, about whatever, man. Anything going on in life, basketball, I don't care. We'll talk about whatever. I want to keep this Q&A segment just kind of me conversating with you guys. But we got a good one from Emmanuel Stanley again. He keeps dropping good questions, man. Shout out to you. Who do you think was the worst player in Ravens history? Mine is Trent Dilfer. This is a good question. I'm guessing you mean known players, obviously, and not somebody who we just kind of gave a tryout to or something like that. I think based off investment, the first guys that come to mind are Matt Elam and Brashad Perryman, because they were first-round picks. The fan base, including me, had a lot of faith and belief in their abilities. Even though when I watched Brashad Perryman's highlights in college and kind of learned more about him, I didn't really fall in love with his game, but it didn't end up translating too well in Baltimore, and that was a first-round receiver, so he had a lot of pressure, and it did not work out. Matt Elam, I feel like, is even worse, so I'm going to go with Matt Elam as the worst player in Ravens history with expectations, I should say. Obviously, there's been worse players that have kind of came and gone in a couple days or whatever, but I'm going to go with Matt Elam. Trent Dilfer, obviously not a crazy talented player, but he kind of game managed us to a Super Bowl. I know the defense carried, and I definitely agree that Trent Dilfer is the worst player to be in big moments like that for us, to literally go to a Super Bowl. He's not the best quarterback, but I don't think he's the worst player ever. Matt Elam came in here in the first round as like our starting safety for the next decade. Like, we were so high on him, and it just could not have went worse. And then literally like a few years later, we caught him and he ends up getting arrested for like selling weed or something. Like, just crazy, man. I feel like that was one of the biggest busts in franchise history, along with Brashad Perryman. But Perryman had a little bit of life on the Bucs later in his career. But Matt Elam kind of came and went pretty fast. And for a first-round pick, I feel like that was just kind of an ugly situation. But let me know what your guys' worst player in franchise history is. I'm probably forgetting some guys too. Matt Elam's just the first one that came to mind. But that's it for today, guys. Let me know what you're thinking about everything. Keep dropping questions for the Q&A segment. I appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll let the greatest linebacker in the history of the game take us out.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The Flock Rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.